Well, hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. I'm
I
so
love it. I
excited.
love the setup.
Yeah, this is our R&D kitchen. We just make all the ice cream here.
It's so cool. How are you doing?
Oh, good. Had a great
Yeah.
weekend. Excited for this. I really like your background. I
Oh,
want
thank
those
you.
wall
Do you see
tiles.
what's happening here?
Yeah. Is that?
Yeah. This is actually it's our collage wall, Tyler. I was talking to you about that.
I really like it so
Yeah,
much. And
these are felt hexagons that we can tack paper and photos onto them. We have shelving. It's
I
actually really
want
cool.
that. I want that on our walls. Okay. We're gonna
Okay,
we're
yeah,
gonna
no, for sure.
steal
And
your idea.
when Tyler and I, for everyone who's in the chat right now, when we were speaking, when we recorded our podcast, he showed me this amazing collage wall of bits of inspiration and pictures, and he said that he likes to stare at it every day, and I feel exactly the same way. A lot of what we do at Story and Rain is we like to collage our ideas. So I was really into it. So that is what I'm sitting in front of. Mine
It's
is
my
empty
favorite.
right now. It has some salt and straw, but
Yeah.
there you
Some
go.
good empty pints. I am hoping those are empty pints.
Oh no, those are our flavors that we're going to be
Okay.
discussing today.
Good.
So your Thanksgiving series, you do a Thanksgiving series every year. How
Yeah.
long have you been? And you do? I think you typically do what, 4 different flavors? How long have you been doing Thanksgiving series?
Yeah, for I think 2013 was the first year where we took this upon ourselves. I love this idea. Like, we were talking in our kitchen, and we were just joking about how amazing it is to come around a Thanksgiving table and just start sharing food back and forth, and how just important that is for, you know, our wholesome hearts, you know. And so we started making ice creams that were based off of the Thanksgiving table. We almost wanted to like replace Friendsgiving with pints of ice cream.
Yes, I was reading the book. I actually have the book right here. Your cookbook, your ice cream
Cool. Oh,
cookbook,
thank you.
which is super cool. But one of the things that you actually say in the book is you envision these pints to be passed around. And I guess
Yeah.
what you're speaking to is this idea of Friendsgiving and passing around ice cream, which is really cool. Really, really cool idea.
Yeah, and I think we talked a little bit about like provoking conversation with flavors, like flavors instigating something fun. And I think some of these flavors are a little bit more unexpected. And
Yeah.
that just creates this really cool conversation at a table when you're sitting around with your friends and family.
Yes, absolutely. That's another thing that we talk about on the podcast is that salt and straw flavors are what you at the company call taste-provoking flavors, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
I love
they
that.
really tell stories. They're really multi-layered. How did you get the idea how did that Thanksgiving series idea kick off? What was the catalyst for that?
Yeah, what we were noticing is that our customers and our team, when they came into Salt and Straw, there was so much conversation, and our team actually wanted to have something that they could share with their customers during Thanksgiving. And so we actually went about we wanted to create almost the entire Thanksgiving table in the form of ice cream, because that's what they wanted to do. They wanted something special to serve for Thanksgiving, for the holiday. And it really took off. Everyone was just excited. The customers are just always like shocked. There's turkey ice cream.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. The turkey ice cream is really interesting. It's interesting how you put it together, but that makes a lot of sense to me that these kinds of fun flavors would really lend themselves to a Thanksgiving or a
Yeah,
Friendsgiving rather.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Do you typically do 4 in a series or do you do more or less?
We try and like 5 is my favorite number. So we're slowly marching back. Ever since we got hit with COVID, we've been slowly kind of trying to increase our number count, our flavor count.
Why 5? Why are you beholden to 5? What is it about 5 flavors together that does it for you?
5 is it's the perfect number. I don't know. 5 is a good number.
It's funny because
Set.
at Story and Rain, 6 is our number.
6.
Yeah.
I like, 5, it allows us to have room in the menu to have a couple flavors that are like just like home run hitters, but it also allows us to have a little bit of room to be really playful. So, when we have certain menus, I think there's a couple flavors that we know are not necessarily going to sell really well, but might just be really exciting for a customer to come in and try for the first time. Our Thanksgiving turkey ice cream is the perfect example. So getting to sample that and just learn about how we made it.
Yeah.
And
we're saying, you know, your ice creams have these really complex flavors, and you and I on the podcast, we spoke about how ingredients are treated and incorporated to create flavors. Can you explain a little bit about how one ingredient might be treated in a number of different ways to create different types of flavors with that ingredient?
Yeah.
For example, lavender or strawberries,
yeah.
you know, each ingredient can be used in a number of ways. Can you speak to that a little bit? Let people
know
I think how that works.
We're going to get into the turkey ice cream here in a minute, which is one of my favorites that we make all year. But this one is really cool because you're absolutely right that you can think of the turkey flavor in a lot of different ways. So obviously, when you dig into a turkey, I think there's a few different sensations that you expect. A really, really great roasted turkey has that really nice crispy skin on top. So we had to not only like figure out the flavor of turkey, but we had to figure out the texture of that skin. So the first thing we do is we'll take the turkey skin, and we actually work with this really cool organic farm in California where they have all the leftover turkey skins they send our way, and we roast them up so they're really, really crisp, almost like crackling. And then we candy coat that because we want the candy to actually protect it in the ice cream. So when you're biting through this, you should get those nice crunches of candied turkey skin.
Wow. Okay.
But that's not enough for just the flavor, right? That's just the texture experience.
I'm gonna try some right now.
Are you gonna eat it with? Okay, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So then the base of the ice cream, we obviously have that fat left over, and so that's where you're getting most of the flavor. We're taking all of that turkey fat and actually folding that into a caramel. And that fat is actually what's going to carry most of the flavor for us in the base of the ice cream. And again, when you're looking at this, you can think of turkey in a lot of different ways, but we wanted to kind of create this multi-tiered, multi-dimensional experience as you're tasting. That you taste not only taste the turkey, but you also like feel the skin.
Yeah, it's true. First, you obviously taste the ice cream, then you get the caramel. And then after the caramel subsides, you can get that like the roasted turkey flavor. Yeah. It's really interesting how that works. But also, so Tyler, you were explaining something else about ingredients to me, where you said like one ingredient could be like if you prepare an ingredient a number of different ways, it can create a number of different types of flavors.
Experiences.
So like for example, how many different ways do you use strawberries in your ice cream? Do you roast them? Yeah. Like you use jam, right?
Oh, strawberries are one of my favorites because there's so many different flavor profiles we can pull out of it. I mean, a fresh strawberry versus strawberry juice versus maybe a dark roasted caramelized strawberry, they're all completely different, and they like to be paired with different ingredients and used in completely different ways. So at its purest form, I think the only way to really truly taste a strawberry and a frozen ice cream is when you're in like a sherbet or a sorbet almost, where you're a little bit lighter in texture, really dense, not much air, but not much fat getting in the way. Because as soon as you add the fat, it's going to just coat your taste buds and just cover all the kind of that delicate strawberry flavor up.
Right.
Yeah.
Did it take a long time, a lot of testing to figure out how to get turkey into ice cream?
Yeah, we had a lot of turkey tests, a lot of bad turkey tests too, I think.
Really?
I think ultimately, you know, it came down to like what was the flavor profile that we're trying to get out of this, like, and it became more than just the flavor, but also that textural sensation of a really good turkey. And so I think really, like I said, unlocking that kind of crunchy, that skin, the turkey skin crackling, and candy coating that was almost the key that unlocked it for us.
And you had a buttered mashed potatoes ice cream in this series that appears in the book. How come it's not in the series this year, or is it? And I just don't know about it.
No reason other than we just I love rotating flavors. Like we're just constantly trying to innovate new versions of flavors. I think we have the sweet potato casserole in this menu instead.
This one is really good.
Yeah, it's like a runaway. Amazing, no, it's so weird. This is one of the top selling flavors all year.
Just like the minute I tasted it, it was like, oh my God, whoa. And for everyone in the chat, we're featuring this recipe on the website this weekend. This is a featured recipe in the Salt and Straw cookbook, so you could try to make it at home. But it is,
Yeah.
but I will say it's spectacular.
This is one of my favorite ice creams. It's got like everything you crave in a pumpkin pie, right? But like a
Totally.
little bit more dense texture, and that marshmallow. We make a homemade marshmallow maple fluff that kind of ripples through it, which has in and of itself so much flavor.
And in the book, it calls for canned sweet potato, but could somebody, if they
Yeah.
had like roasted sweet potatoes on hand or some preparation of potatoes on hand, could they work with that too? Or
Yeah, we actually use whole potatoes in our kitchen. It's just
okay,
canned are a little easier. The trick is with these potatoes, you need to cook them so much where you're cooking a lot of that starch out, and that actually requires you to cook them. We'll take fresh potatoes and bake them for up to 4 hours, because you need it to kind of like convert. And as soon as it converts, it'll create a texture that's really pleasant on your mouth. It's not too sticky.
interesting, interesting. It's really all about the science of getting all these
I don't know.
ingredients to play well together, right? Um,
Yeah.
and now there's a roasted peach and sage cornbread stuffing ice
This.
cream in the
Yeah.
series. And herbs work really well in ice creams, right? I feel like somebody who might not like an herb in real life, we'll call it
Yeah.
real life, might end up liking it in an ice cream. Does that make sense? Why do you think that is?
Yeah, there's a lot of, well, I'd say yes and no. Like this is another instance where herbs can be used in a lot of different techniques, and depending on where you're trying to take the flavor, it can change drastically. So for us, this is a sage-based ice cream, and what we'll do is we'll steep the cream and sage together. So the cream is actually soaking up a lot of the volatile oils out of the
Right.
sage and just picking it up. So it's almost pretty intense. Like in
It's
some
so
ways,
intense.
it almost tastes like a fresh mint, kind
Mhm.
of. I don't know if you're getting that, like with that sage.
Yeah, it's got a refreshing flavor to it.
And with some ingredients, that's a really, really cool technique. With other ingredients, when it's pulling out those oils, it's too intense. So with our lavender ice cream, I don't know if you noticed in the cookbook, we don't actually steep our lavender in cream because the cream is pulling out too much flavor. It's creating almost that soapy flavor. Instead, we'll soak the lavender in honey. And the honey is kind of pulling out more of the delicate tea flavors of the lavender.
So
So you can see
interesting.
there's really drastic differences depending on the ingredient we're trying to use.
Absolutely. And then one of the final in the series is a cranberry juniper sorbet. What
Yeah,
kind of flavor do you say juniper imparts? I mean, juniper is sort of an herb, right?
yeah,
It's a tree. So
yeah.
what flavor do you think that imparts as opposed to
So
like the sage?
with juniper, it's going to be one of the first ingredients you taste in gin.
Right.
So has a ton of that botanical flavor to it.
Yeah.
I think in many ways it's very similar to like a really good black pepper too.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that combined with that really like high acidity with the cranberries, it's almost juniper inherently has more of a berry flavor to it than really berries even have. And so I love how like just that botanical kind of the berry notes, like the kind of like essence of berry kind of combines with the cranberries themselves, which then in themselves don't taste much like a berry. And actually creates this flavor that you have never tasted before in many ways.
It's very true, Tyler.
Yeah,
I was just thinking as I was tasting it that it's a cranberry juniper sorbet, but it has a very berry flavor, a
hmm
very like almost undescribable berry flavor to it. You're
hmm
absolutely right. Like you can't. It's like nothing you've ever tasted before, and
yeah.
it's amazing that juniper does that. You know.
Yeah, it's like a more berry cranberry. Yeah,
And you had told me that your favorite flavor of the moment is the strawberry coconut water. Is that what it's called? Coconut water sherbet. Why do you like it
yeah.
so much? Why is it your favorite?
Uh, well, okay, my favorite flavor changes so often, but right now I'm just in this mood of like, I just want something really refreshing. We're eating a lot of starches, like a lot of uh, a lot of sweet potatoes and things at home. And so I want something like when I'm eating ice cream that's just really, really refreshing. And this ice cream itself, a strawberry coconut water, it's really simple. It's just a few different ingredients: coconut water, strawberries kind of blended together with a little bit of sugar and loaded into an ice cream machine. And that in and of itself has just this really, really refreshing sensation to it. So for me, it's kind of the opposite. I love in the fall to be eating these really starchy, heavy, beautiful foods, harvest foods.
Yes,
And
it's a great counterpoint to all of those starchier foods.
yeah.
How many people order sorbets and sherbets as opposed to ice cream? Are they as popular, would you say?
Oh, absolutely. For us, over 20% of our flavors are non-dairy.
Yes.
And I think that's such a cool thing for us. And I say that because they're not all sherbets and sorbets. I think only a few of them are sorbets. But they're done in ways that are just really still very indulgent and have kind of the same like thoughtfulness and characteristics of any ice cream. In many ways more.
That was something else we talked about on the podcast, that there are vegan,
Yeah.
vegan ice cream offerings, but you saw sort of a gap in the market because a lot of them aren't really indulgent. They're either they're keto, or they're lacking these intense flavor profiles, and you wanted to come in and offer that.
Yeah, I think it's such a cool, like, I know it's a race to the bottom if you're trying to fit into some weird diet.
So then, what is the difference between sherbet and sorbet?
Yeah, I think of it as a range. So anywhere from 0% to like 18% fat is typically where we're balancing. So I more or less gauge an ice cream and its type of ice cream on how much fat it has. So 0% is usually like a sorbet. Because we're not adding any cream. As soon as we add a splash of cream, it becomes a sherbet. So it's usually about 2% fat. And that cream actually helps hold some of those flavors to your taste buds a little bit. Sometimes it can get in the way of some of the flavors. Like a really good strawberry, it might kind of cover up some of the really delicate notes of the strawberry. And then as soon as you go all the way up to like 18%, that's an ultra premium ice cream. And the fat, it wants to hold a little bit more air, so they become a little bit airier.
Yeah.
But it carries some of the really, really expensive flavors like chocolate and vanilla really nicely. So all that fat just helps all those flavors kind of hold to your taste buds much longer and allows you to taste, that $500 gallon vanilla.
And so when you're creating vegan sherbet, you're using fats like coconut, I would assume. What other fats do you use in sherbets for the vegan flavors?
Oh, coconut's my favorite. It's one of the easiest. You get like a really nice boxed coconut cream. We love using, like, every once in a while we'll use like avocado. So avocado in and of itself has a lot of fat in it.
I was actually going to ask you if avocado was a key ingredient for that.
We have one. We actually haven't told anyone yet, but we've got a avocado banana ice cream coming out in January that I'm really excited about.
That sounds amazing. You heard it here first, guys. Avocado
banana. Other fats, I think, even just avocado oil in and of itself, if you whip it in really nicely, it can hold a lot of that air in a similar way. Coconut oil does the same thing. So there's some cool tricks that we've got.
I have to read the description for one of the ice creams that's on the current menu. It's buttermilk, pancakes, bacon, and eggs. And it says, griddled blueberry coffee cake pancakes get smothered in Vermont maple syrup, then combined with crystallized bits of brown sugar bacon before getting lost in rich custardy pancake batter ice cream. I'm sure your customer is a customer who's often going to choose the most unique and exotic flavors. I mean, that's your customer. Does salt and straw have a most popular flavor of all time? And I mean, I think people will always come in for the more familiar flavors, but on the flip side, is there like a home run in terms of the salt and straw customer is looking for complex and exotic ice cream, and what is their typical go-to? What has it been over the years?
Well, I think, like I said earlier, it changes every month. Like every month, it's just so salient to its moment in time. But really for like the past 9 years, we've came up come out with a goat cheese Marionberry habanero ice cream
Wow.
every summer for our berries menu in July. And it actually is now the cover of our cookbook. So if you get the cookbook, it's that kind of beautiful scoop. It's dripping.
It's this.
That's our goat cheese Marionberry habanero. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's the one where we get everyone kind of coming back, and we get people waiting in line before we open the stores in July, excited for this one to launch each year.
That's great. And so, do you see a lot of vegan customers too, Tyler, because of the fact that you have these amazing vegan offerings?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got, I mean, I think we were trying to calculate per capita. I think we've got some of the most vegans in the country here in Portland.
Yeah.
What I'm always surprised about is there's a lot of people that don't even expect, or they order a flavor because it's delicious. It's like game-changingly delicious, and it wasn't because it was vegan. And they almost feel tricked at the end of it. They're like, oh my gosh. And then they eat it and they're just, life has changed. Wow. Because they weren't expecting it to be so delicious. So,
and that's when you know you're doing something right?
It's one of my favorite.
The cookbook is so great. We just showed the cookbook here a second ago. Here it is again. There it is. What made you decide to do a cookbook? Was there a catalyst for that as well? Was there something that made you guys decide to do this?
Yeah, for me, I was talking with my editor, who is Francis Lamb. She's on Splendid Table now. He was amazing to work with, and we were talking because I think for me, ice cream is like a gateway drug to learning about your local food community. It really is such an easy platform to have fun with and to go out and start researching your local chocolate makers and talking to your farmers about what's in season and why it would be so incredible to freeze into ice cream. In of itself, it's one of the coolest, or it's an unintended pun, but one of the coolest food preservation methods ever, right? Because you can freeze it and put it in your, keep it in your freezer all summer or all winter.
Right.
So
right.
I love how we wanted to create a platform for people to start learning how to make ice cream, so then they could actually go on and start hunting down the best ingredients in their city and convert those into ice cream for themselves.
Yeah, well, I think there's a little passage at the beginning of your cookbook that states the book's mission is to help people tap into their own creativity, to invent flavors of their own based on whatever they see around them. I love that.
Yeah.
But does that mean that we should all be maybe thinking about our leftovers in a different way? When you say items around you, I mean, should we be kind of repurposing what we have in our kitchen to make ice cream?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we did this one season where we took leftovers from, various organizations and nonprofits all around the city and converted them into ice cream. And, we got to talk about what food waste means in ice cream. At home, absolutely. Like this time 100 years ago, making an artichoke ice cream was not weird whatsoever. Like that was that's what they found in the garden. They combined it with a little cream and hand churned it. And it was actually, you'll find that recipe in some really old cookbooks.
That's really interesting. Fun fact.
Yeah. For some reason, I think like the big industrial guys took over and they figured out they can cost engineer vanilla and chocolate really well. And that's what they've tricked our taste buds into wanting. But there's so much variation out there and there's so much creativity just at your fingertips.
Has Salt and Straw done an artichoke ice cream?
Not yet.
Oh.
It's
okay.
We've got a recipe for it, but we've never made it.
Oh, interesting. You have a deep love for the collaboration process, and that's literally what your ice creams are. They're these intricate mashups of ingredients collaborating in sync. But you have another collaboration coming up I'm really excited for. I think it drops on November 6th. You have a fragrance collab, right?
Yeah. I have it displayed here. And this is one of the first samples ever made.
I'm dying to see this.
Yeah.
It's so pretty. It's in a box. Is it a rollerball perfume?
We've got a few different sizes. So, but yeah, no, they're all spritz.
They are all spritz. Yeah,
Spritz?
they're spray. Yeah.
I think I admitted to you on the podcast that I was very ignorant to perfumes in general.
Yeah,
before
but I
all of
mean,
this.
but you knew when you collaborated. Tell us who you collaborated with for it.
Yeah, so we got to work with this really amazing perfume maker here in Portland called Imaginary Authors. And I remember, I mean, the first time I smelled his stuff, I wasn't even looking for perfume. I was just kind of, hunting around, shopping, killing time in LA. And I found this and just my mind was completely changed on what aroma can do in general. I had never kind of put one and one together that perfume and food are so similar,
Yeah,
right? Like you really are trying to build this crescendo of flavor, and then you want it to kind of like slowly let off. And with food, maybe that one bite will take 10 minutes for you to completely finish tasting. And perfume is the same way. You put it on, and it'll take hours for you to really smell the entire story of the flavor.
that's very
And
true. That's very
that
true.
was so cool for me. I had never smelled anything with that much complexity, and his style of perfume making just blew me away. And we started talking a lot over the last couple of years, and ultimately we were playing with a lot of different ingredients. Actually, I think I told you we were initially playing on with different perfumes that we could spray on ice cream, because ice cream is one of the only foods that you can't smell, which you can test
It's
that out. Isn't
fascinating.
that weird that there's
That is
yeah
fascinating. When you shared
uh,
that with me, that was
yeah
fascinating. And that's still in the
kind of
works. Am I correct or no? It's in the works?
yeah we've got it, like it's up on a shelf because we started going down this path that we are like I'm deeply in love with. What we started doing is we wanted to kind of create that ambiance of going into an ice cream shop, and like I think it's beyond just the smell, but it was ultimately based off of that. It's the entire feel of walking in to a Salt and Straw. Because what happens when you go to Salt and Straw, you're completely transported into a different world. And that's created by obviously our incredible flavors, but it's in the insane service, and it's the space that you walk into. And so we tried to create that in one perfume, and I think we did
So
a really good job.
it's called Whiff of Waffle Cone. And do you
Yeah,
know
we
what
had
the
fun with it.
notes do you know what the notes are in the fragrance? Do you know what it's a combination of?
No, but he wrote notes on the back. Do
Oh,
you have those?
let's
Oh
read
man.
them.
Okay. Okay. Let me see. Maybe they're not. Oh, well, this one's the short version. It says vanilla, heavy cream, salted caramel.
Right.
There's a
Well,
longer version out there in the world, so I'm gonna have to
we are
hunt
going to
that down.
we're going to put the fragrance on the website because I am already in love with it and I have not even smelled it yet. So,
It's
um,
I've got a sample here. If you were in Portland, I would very much share. Um,
but
it's
you said
incredible.
it's a sophisticated scent. It's not, it's not a childish scent. It's sophisticated.
Well, that was the first thing we did. This is very much in line with Salt and Straw, and the first thing we keyed in on is I think we like to make ice cream that is kid friendly, but all obviously made for adults. And this is very much that same way. This is perfume that I like. I personally want to wear every single day. It's fun to wear. As soon as you put it on, you're just like completely like everything changes. Your whole mood changes. And you
I
go
love
out and
that. And
people
it's
notice and they
unisex.
ask, what
Yeah.
what is that? Yeah.
We have some questions from some followers and some fans.
Okay.
Jamie has asked, I love this question from Jamie. What experience or skills do you look for in your ice cream makers, and how many does Salt and Straw have?
We have, so we're in our R&D kitchen, and then right behind me, behind this wall, is our main kitchen. There's about 90 of us in this building. So some of those are ice cream makers. I think maybe 20, 40 of them make ice cream at any given moment, and then the rest of them are kind of working in the freezer and things like that, packing orders. For skills, we love working with people that have been in a kitchen because that makes a huge difference. But also, I think for us, there's something about making a tub of ice cream that is really, really unique. Like it's a 2.5 gallon tub. I'm trying to find an example somewhere, but it's basically 2.5 gallons or even a pint. And it's very much like we like to call it like a three-dimensional piece of art, because everything that you put in there is going to be uniquely scoop out and get that perfect scoop. And so when you're building this pint, you know, like if there's a layer, this one has layers of sweet potato marshmallow, you want to create kind of this perfect experience for someone. And that's really, really important to have someone that loves it that much and can kind of vision what it should look like.
And Minya is actually along the same lines, is asking, do you have the final sign off on flavors, or do flavors require the sign off of many?
I think for us, yeah, we like to collaborate a lot in our kitchen. At the end of the day, like I think, I don't know, there's a few of us in the R&D kitchen right now. I would say I have final say in what the menu looks like.
Yeah, because it could, I mean, again, no pun intended, or maybe pun intended. There could be too many cooks in the kitchen, right? And then you can sort of spitball and collaborate till over and over and over again. Somebody has to sort of drop the hatchet, right, and make a decision.
Oh, and absolutely. And from that same perspective, you know, there's been, you know, I remember there's once or twice every once in a while we'll make one flavor and it'll be made 10 different ways by 5 different people. And so ultimately, you know, it's kind of what we got to before, like one flavor it can be made in an infinite amount of styles. So trying to dial that in and focus it onto one answer is really hard.
Yeah. Caleb is asking, which restaurants serve salt and straw ice creams, and would you ever consider selling in bigger supermarkets?
We actually don't sell it at any restaurants. We're kind of, I think there's something about like the ice cream experience when you know, a scoop of salt and straw, I think it lives on its own so well. It's really hard to build hard for people to build a sundae off of or anything like that. And at the same time, there's so much more than just eating the ice cream. It's being at the shop. It's getting the full level of experience.
Yeah,
that I think goes into the experience.
It's the experience, so, Caleb. Allie asked, if you ever plan on selling ice cream cakes. If so, sign me up.
Oh, ice cream.
Has that actually ever occurred to you, Tyler? Have you ever thought about doing ice cream desserts or riffs on ice cream in that way?
Yeah, we did a lot of really cool projects. We've done a lot of really cool projects. We've got kind of our own little like Choco Tacos, things like that. And so I've only made ice cream cakes a handful of times. If you want a recipe, I can just DM us. I can write a recipe pretty quickly.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll get that from you and we'll publish it on the website.
Okay, deal.
Yeah.
That seems like a good. I think like ice cream in itself, like I'm maybe a purist in some weird way.
No, I get that.
Like,
Dina asked, during your TED Talk, you talked about how you began cooking and creating food to heal when a family member was sick. Do you ever cook that way today, till this day? And if what moments, if any, motivate you to cook today in your personal life?
Oh, that was really nice. That was a nice comment. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Once you start cooking and especially pastry, it's a go-to. It's meditative. And so I think the same way people would use like yoga or even working out is how I'd use cooking. So absolutely. I don't know if I have a go-to at home. So right now it's just dinner. But
right, we talked about grilled cheese sandwiches. But do you look at food as medicine still to this day?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. That's like, you know, and not only medicine, but also like it is like my number one hobby in the same way. Like that's what we do. You know, if my wife and I need a day off, we'll cook all day. So there really is something about it that is it changes the day for you.
It's absolutely meditative. Sarah asked, how did you guys have to shift your practices for the coronavirus pandemic?
Yeah, everything changed during COVID. It was For us, for the first few weeks, we went to only 100% on sales, which was really interesting. And because of that, we had to we rebuilt our website, our level of service, the packages that we offer, everything. And it's cool because now, I mean, when you log on to saltandstraw.com, I think it's a really, really unique, personalized experience. So ordering ice cream from us is, to this day, so much, so incredible. And I think kind of mimics the same level of service that you get in our shops, which was really, really critical. So I think there's, that in and of itself is
it's not a straightforward e-commerce experience, right? You're saying it's more than
that. Yeah, and it's the experience, it's the service that you're kind of getting through that. I think that was maybe one of the only silver linings in all of this for us, is the ability to convert and, the after effects that we'll see from it, and kind of being able to have a kind of new channels of business for ourselves, and a more robust business that I think is really unique in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. And David is asking a business question. Is Salt and Straw raising money at the moment?
No, not at the moment. We are just getting ready to open in Florida. So that's we've got all eyes on that, getting ready for expansion out to Miami. So it's been 100% of our focus.
Tyler, is it one location in Miami, or are there more than one location?
2 in Miami, straight out the gates. We found 2 locations that we just fell in love with. And for us, going that far out east, we want to open a few at a time, just so that we can kind of really leverage all the resources that we have out there. So one is going to be in Wynwood, and then the second in Coconut Grove, which we're so amped for.
Question from me is, you said you fell in love with those 2 locations. What makes you fall in love with a location? What has to be right?
Well, for a city in and of itself, I think we think a lot about the food industry, and and what's happening in the food industry, because for us, when we open, the food
culture of that particular city.
Yeah, we don't just open.
In that city.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we don't just open and just make copy and paste our menus from Portland. We actually spend over a year working with different chefs and artisans, trying to figure out what's going on in the city that we can tap into to create a menu that's unique to Miami. And I slowly I guess relatively quickly, we realized that this city is changing so fast, and almost soon, I think this time in next year, we'll be calling it one of the top food cities in the country. Because of what they're doing, the chefs are just completely changing the game with ingredients that we've never seen before in most of the other states. And so that was really exciting to work in. And then finding the right little neighborhoods that were kind of showing off great food was kind of the next challenge. Wynwood in and of itself has some of the best restaurants in the city, and Coconut Grove is just the perfect little neighborhood.
Are there some key Miami area ingredients that you can share? Do you want to hold those until opening?
Oh, we got a few. I think, we worked with Panther Coffee on a really great flavor, so stay tuned for that one. We've got a really, really cool partnership teed up with the Salty Donut, which I don't know if you've been to their donut shops, but they're and they just opened in Dallas, actually, in case you get to go.
Yeah.
So there's a couple key partnerships that I think we were able to dive into, and they're really delicious.
Here's a fun question. I'm curious now too that Gail asked this question. Do you have a recommendation for an at-home ice cream maker? I'm sure a lot of people are listening to this wondering if you have any recommendations for that.
Yeah, well, we spend a few pages in the book talking about this, because there's a lot of different options when you're buying ice cream makers at home. The first, this is mine in R&D. This is Lelo, Mussolini Lelo. It's a gelato maker. It's one of the best, but they're also pretty expensive. One step down, I think Breville makes a really nice machine for a couple $100. But honestly, a lot of the machines that you get with the pre-frozen bowls work pretty well. So that KitchenAid makes an attachment where it's just a pre-frozen bowl that you kind of clip in. Honestly, there's a lot of different options. If you're just starting out, I would just get one of those pre-frozen bowls, like a
Okay.
Cuisinart or a KitchenAid. You can only make one flavor per day, but they work awesome.
Good tip. Last question is from Elliot. What are you most excited for in your career and for the future?
Oh, that's a really big question. I think, for us, what we're doing, expanding out to the East Coast, we're trying to change how business is done in the country. Like, instead of going to a city and just copying and pasting it, we want to prove that you can grow as a company across the country and create really unique experiences everywhere you go, with the look, feel, but also the product itself. And so it's interesting because I think we have this opportunity to show that, growth does not mean mass sameness. And that could be really, I think, revolutionary for the business community and restaurants.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Tyler. Episode 52 of the podcast is launching right now. We're going to post that all over our social media channels, as well as we'll have some things on the website. Thank you so much, Tyler. It's good to see you.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.